Intro segment, Jeff Hollinger earlier this morning about to introduce Pete Davis for a sports segment on our morning show at 6:50 this morning. So listen carefully. This is Jeff Hollinger's intro of Pete Davis.
Planet Radio WGST time is 6:51. Now Planet Radio WGST Sports with Pete Davis. And Pete, you know, we do this every summer. It is as predictable as the Swallows returning to Capistrano. That is all of that hand-wringing, that woe is the Braves. What's wrong with these lads? They're not playing well. Then by the middle of September, they're up by a casual, say, 6.5 games in the East, and the hand-wringing subsides, at least for 2 or 3 weeks.
And the magic number is 12. And they can do it on this homestand. The Braves are now 6.5 games ahead of the flailing fish.
Okay, that was this morning. Jeff Hollinger introducing Pete Davis at 6:50 this morning. And Jeff making reference to the fact that there seems to be every year a lot of hand-wringing by so-called Braves fans because the Braves have not gone 162-0 or are not on a pace to go 162-0. Now, why all the hand-wringing every year in Atlanta? I will tell you why all the hand-wringing every year in Atlanta. And this may sting some of you, but there's a reason for it. Most Atlantans who became Braves fans 6 years ago this month, when it became fashionable to do so, as the Braves began to appear to be legitimate National League West contenders, and that was when they were in the National League West with the Dodgers and the Giants, don't know a damn thing about baseball. Most Atlantans don't know a damn thing about baseball. The Braves aren't allowed a slump. The fans don't understand the season lasts 6 months, and that over 162 games there are peaks and valleys, and that players are human, and some of them slump. Most people who cast themselves as Braves fans are a bunch of front-running, bandwagon-jumping, good-time Charlie. It's chic and hip to be a Brave fan. That's exactly what these people are. I have seen for years people at Fulton County Stadium, tomahawk chopping. Most of these people couldn't have found their way to Fulton County Stadium with a map 6 years ago. Now, because it's hip, because the Braves started winning all of a sudden, now they're Braves fans, but they don't know anything about baseball. So the minute that Greg Maddux has a bad start, or John Smoltz loses 2 in a row, or anybody goes into a slump. Oh, there's a problem. The Braves stink. Oh, and you know what? Let me tell you something, folks. I will guarantee you this. If somehow Maddux, Glavine, and Smoltz hopped in a car tonight and headed west and never appeared again, the Braves, of course, would go in the toilet. And by the middle of the season next year, there'd be 3,000 people at Fulton County Stadium. That is because, for the most part, I say for the most part, the people in Atlanta who know the most about baseball are transplants, not people who are from here. There's a reason for that, to a degree. It's because the Braves have only been here 30 years. This has only been a major league city for 30 years. And consequently, this generation of fans is the first generation that really has any baseball history behind it, local baseball history. But I'm going to tell you something. If you consider yourself an Atlanta Brave fan, and you became one just 6 years ago when it became hip, stop all the griping and the bitching and the moaning. You should be happy as hell to have a team as good as they are and to be in a pennant race every single year. Look at the Boston Red Sox. Look at the Chicago Cubs. Be happy for what you've got. And when they lose 2 or 3 in a row, stop complaining. And stop moaning and stop whining. The Braves stink. The Braves are a great franchise. John Schuerholz is the best general manager in baseball. They have the best pitching staff probably in the history of baseball. And all of you bandwagon-jumping, good-time Charlies who all of a sudden became baseball fans 6 years ago, if you don't like it, get out of the kitchen. Stop being an Atlanta Brave fan if you don't understand the game, and stop tomahawk chopping when you don't even know a thing about baseball. Explain the infield fly rule to me. None of you can. Some of you can't. Whatever. Enough said. 3:18 on Dave Stone on Planet Radio, WGST.
I have an 84 Jeep Grand Wagoneer that I have an electrical problem with.
No, you're on the air. Hello.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for taking the call.
You
I'll
bet.
be quick with my remarks. Let me just briefly tell you that I don't remember the year, but I stood on a bank on Capitol Avenue and watched them digging out the hole to put the original Fulton County Stadium there. So I believe I could find my way there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my other remark is, I used to love baseball, but I've been to one Braves game in the last 5 years, and that was just to go see the new stadium and to be with my son for a few hours. And the owners and the players have gotten so greedy that I could care less if they ever play another baseball game anywhere. And that's the way I feel about all pro sports. Love college sports, and the pro sports is just a bunch of greedy players and owners who only think of themselves. And when it costs you $3.50 or whatever it is to get a Coca-Cola at a baseball game, then I think it's time the American people woke up and say enough's enough, and we're going to stay at home.
Well, Charlie, it's the law of supply and demand, and that's, believe me, if the Braves were to start losing tomorrow, as I said, if Maddox and Glavine and Smoltz were to hop in a car and head toward the setting sun and never appear again, believe me, the cost of everything would go down because there wouldn't be as much demand as there is to see the Braves play. Now, this is all supply and demand, but that's a story for another day, and that's a topic for another day.
Dave.
Beg pardon?
That's exactly what ought to happen. People stay away, and so those guys can head somewhere else and bring the prices down. But let me tell you one other piece of history. I used to sell Coca-Colas at the old Ponce de Leon ballpark back in the 50s to make a little spending money as a teenage kid.
All right, Charlie.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
You bet. Thank you very much for the call. Let's go to Martha in Atlanta. I apparently offended her. She claims that Atlanta is a baseball town. I say Atlanta is a front-runner town.
Well, I'll agree with you to the extent that there are a lot of folks at Fulton County Stadium I wish would go home so it could be like the old days when you could get a decent seat. But I just wanted to let you know that my granddaddy was in Atlanta, lettered in baseball at Tech in 1918, and I, too, used to be dragged over to the old Ponce de Leon ballpark as a very young child, and he trained me in the ways of baseball very young. Then I was fortunate enough to share an office with one of the great baseball men in Atlanta, and this was all long before the Braves became big, so I think it's unfair to say that all Atlantans are on that.
No, I didn't say all. What I said was there are a lot of people who claim today to be Atlanta Brave fans who are not. They are a bunch of bandwagon jumping, good time Charlies who all of a sudden became fans when it became hip and fashionable. And I'm talking about, the people that you meet here who know the most about baseball are not from here. And I'm just, you look at Boston, you look at Fenway Park. The Red Sox have not won a World Series since 1918, and every year they draw 2 million fans to Fenway Park.
They have the faithful.
They do, and this town does not.
Atlanta has its faithful too, and we have always had its faithful.
Not enough of them.
I say, I'm a third generation Atlanta native.
Martha, the comments that I made were not directed at people like you. They were directed at people who became Braves fans 6 years ago this month when it became the in thing to do. My comments were not directed at people who've been here and who've been baseball fans for 50, 60, 70 years and who have relatives who were involved in baseball back when the old Atlanta Crackers played. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about people from another era.
Well, I've got a trivia question for you. Do you know who hit the longest home run in baseball history and where?
The longest home run in baseball history? Well, it
was at Ponce de Leon Park.
Well, you going to tell me Josh Gibson or Mickey Mantle?
Ask somebody about it.
Well, I know the story where it landed on the freight train.
That's right, and it went to New Orleans.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, Martha. Thank you very much. I'm talking about recorded longest home run. That would be my Mickey Mantle at Griffith Stadium in Washington, about 575 feet. Mickey is in a car in Riverdale, and I'll get to him in a moment. Got to take a break here, Lolo. Let's get it done. 328, 404-367 WGST, 1-800-FON WGST. I'm Dave Stone. We're all over the place today, but having fun on Planet Radio WGST.
I want a fully automatic.
The kids' fault. That's marketing and merchandising.
That's true to a point. But these kids are smart enough to know whoever is winning is their favorite team. That's not a fan. That's a front runner. Thanks, Tom. Thanks very much for the comment. I appreciate it. I've got Alan and Rick and Dan and Joe and Bobby. I'll get to all of you gentlemen in just a moment. Please be patient. 346. I'm Dave Stone on Planet Radio WGST.
Every Monday night from 7 to 8 p.m., come meet Dan Reeves as he and Fox 5's Jeff Hullinger presents The Dan Reeves Show, live from Morgan's Restaurant and Bar, the newest and hottest spot in Atlanta.
2 keys, and that's going to be offense and defense.
Dan will take calls from listeners and answer questions.
Baseball, and I'm a Dodger fan saying this, okay? The best organization in baseball, the best team in baseball. As you said, they now have the best record in baseball at 91-54. They've won 15 of their last 20, and I just hope that people here appreciate what they've got, a contender, a perennial contender that's so hard to find.
Well, I wish I think those folks have short memories, Dave, because, you know, when I got on this beat in 1987, the team was just the opposite of what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
It was a horrible organization, a terrible team they were putting on the field, and they were having to use all kinds of different ways to try to coax people into the stands and try to keep them entertained once they got in. You know, those were some real dark days, and if you can't appreciate what's been going on since 1991, then you're really not much of a baseball fan. I mean, this is not going to continue forever because the pitchers are not going to be here forever, and eventually the team is not going to necessarily be back to be a 4th and 5th place team, but it's not necessarily going to be leading the way every single season, so you darn well better appreciate it while you can.
Yeah, as I said, I just think that a lot of people here, Jeff Hullinger made a comment this morning about every year the fans with their hand wringing and what's wrong with the Braves. There's nothing wrong with the Braves. The season is 162 games long, and the players are human. Baseball.